Hi, it's Sheena again, and I thought we would draw and colour a lily together using the Spectrum Illustrator pens. And so before I'm starting, as usual, I've made a little palette here. I've chosen some colours I think is my starting point for what I'll be using. So have a little scribble, have a look, make colour charts definitely with these pens because you're going to want to refer to them. Keep them handy, but also just try out the colours, get a collection and see that this I think is going to be the core colours I'm going to use. So I'll just take you through them quickly. I've got AP3, which is vintage pink. I've got PP6, which is cocktail pink. CR11, flame red. TN7, leather. For the centre, the little green bits in the middle, I've got LG3, which is meadow. AG3, emerald. Now I may not use that emerald, we'll see. I might not. For the the stamens, you know, that are really huge on lilies. I'm going to use OR3, which is orange, maybe some CT3 canary. We'll decide on what we're colouring it in. And I'll definitely be using the leather back in there. But for shading, I'm going to use BGR2, which is blue grey 2, and BGR1, which is blue grey 1, just around the petals, just to give it a little bit of movement, just to emphasise that. Oh, and obviously the blender pen as well. The blender's going to come into play. So that's the starter for 10 there, and then we'll get to drawing. So what we need, other than the pens to get started, is some card. I'm using Sheena stamping card here. We call it stamping card, but you know, it's just your go-to card. It's 300 GSM, white, smooth, both sides. So it doesn't matter which side you use, it's all good. And if you want, you know, the card that's made for pens, for blending, Nina card's fabulous, but I find that Sheena card works really nicely, and it means I can also ink later if I want with my distress inks and my cut and dry foam or whatever blender you use. So kind of get mixed media in there. So you also need a pencil. Now, nothing fancy here. I'm using a retractable pencil. It's Pentel 1, and it's a 07 nib, and I think it's an HB. Maybe a 2B, but something like that. Anything more on the B side than the H side. H means the harder leads, B means the softer. The higher the number, the softer the lead. And because we're doing as little drawing as possible, we're going to erase it. We want something, the softer the lead means it's not going to indent into the card and it's going to erase easier. So we're going to start this by drawing an upside down triangle. That's going to be a starter. So you know, if you can't draw, use a template, get a triangle template. Something like that, that's all I need, something like that, because these stargazer lilies are kind of based on a triangle. And if you hear noises in the background, I might have mentioned that it's, you know, we have the odd little furry beastie around Douglas Towers here. I think that was Ginny. Could be Molly, she's not getting enough attention, but you know how it is. Rude. So anyway, so now I'm going to put a little dot in the centre. That's my centre of my triangle, upside down triangle. Now I'm going to start to draw some petals in here. So I'm going to have a little not quite from the middle, and I'm going to start to take this and shaky, think shaky, because these have got that gorgeous, very, like what makes them I think is that ruffly kind of edge they have to them. You know, like a really frilly kind of ruffly edge and longer petals here. And so that's one petal drawn there. And then the other one's going to come towards here, so we're going to go there, leaving a little space again in the centre, and then we're going to draw another. Now, the more, you know, different you make these, the more realistic they're going to look. Still want to keep the same basic kind of shape pattern going, but you know, have them so that maybe some of them are curling over. One of them I might not even see the end because it might be tucked under. Might do that one at the top. So again, see, just working your way around, keeping that nice frilly, and then we'll have this one curling right round. Let's do that. Now, my hand's in the way, I'm sorry, but we'll come back. So now we've got 3 petals drawn there. The next thing is we need the petals that go in between. So if we think about the ones at the back here, this one might be curling up, but I think I'm going to draw it so that it looks like it's curled over. So if you just do something like this and then come in a little bit, that one could be curled over on top of itself. Does that make sense? And then this one here. Now, if you don't know what these look like, the best advice I can give you if you want to draw any flowers is look at them. If you haven't got them there to look at them, there's a wealth of pictures on the internet now, so you know we'll have that. That's the best thing to do, because you think you know them sometimes, and then you draw them and you go, that's not right, what's going on? And then you realise it's just that something little that you haven't quite got the characteristic in it, and then you come back and you go, ah yeah, that's what it needed. So you've got a lily shape thing going on here. Now at this point we can erase that triangle because that served its purpose. You see it's 3 and 3, so we've got that triangle. All we did was fit the other ones in between. So this is where you'll know if your pencil's soft enough, because this will be where, if it isn't soft enough, you'll get a mark left on the card. So, you know, don't use tons of pressure here, and don't worry if it's not perfect, because, you know, when we start colouring in, the pens are more likely to cover what we've what's down there anyway. And if it doesn't, you know, I quite like that look of a little bit of the sketchy graphite showing underneath. This was the thing I love, you know, with the little bit sketchy range of stamps. That was the look I like. I want it to look hand drawn. I don't want it to look like I printed it off a computer. I want it to look like, you know, you've drawn it yourself. So, and if you have, brilliant. Okay, so now put those little lines back there. Now the other thing that these need, and they definitely need, are the stamens, you know, all that pollen. That, by the way, if you've got cats, definitely get rid of these, because they really do, they're killers for cats. I didn't know that. I can't believe that more people don't know this. You know, we should know more about that. It was just on a TV programme that I first found out. And I've got 2 cats, and I've had lilies before, and yeah, so cut them out. Anyway, they get all over the shop if you don't. I'm not allergic to flowers much, but these really do set me breathing off. Fabulous, but they do. So they're the bits of the you know, the stamens with all that pollen on, because they feature quite highly. Now you can draw a little bit of a reference thing like this. This is going to be really, really light towards the middle. You see the way I'm bending them so that they look like they're coming from, they're not just straight out there. If they look straight, then that wouldn't look natural. So a little bend like that, and then we can come back to do that. Now the other thing that we need on these is in the middle. You've got like a pointy bit that comes from the centre that goes so far up the petal, and it's joined to the petal, and it's the green bit on your lilies. That it's really juicy green on your stargazer lilies. And of course, if you want to do your tiger lily, whatever, just once you've done this, you just change the colour. So can you see that there, that last one there? We're going to do a little one of those pointy bits. Now it's going to get in the way of this, of the, you know, the statement with the thing, but when we colour it in, we'll remember that it's there. Yeah, I was wondering what that was there, and that's where I've joined that. Now, oh, the other thing is you need that bit in the middle there. This is the business bit there, so that needs to come down, and I'm just going to take that out there, and it's kind of like a little 3-piece thing like that to go in the centre. This is where, don't get hung up on what's going on, it gets all complicated in the middle. We just need to that's enough. Right, so there, oh, one more thing. The thing that makes lilies look like lilies as well is the lines. You know, they've got those lines, haven't they? So, and what you can find is if you continue the line like that, it accentuates the shape in the flower. It really makes it look like it's bent around like this, and a little few more at the start here, then carrying all the way around. So this one, can you see how it gives that illusion of it being bent round more? Just use those little lines to your advantage. And we'll obviously the dotty bits as well, we'll do them later, but I'm not, this is a lot of drawing, this is more drawing than, but I want to show you the whole of everything, the structure of what's going to make this, what makes this lily a lily. And that, to me, that's the identikit bit of your lily, I reckon. Anything we go from there is all going to be to do with the colour, which is why there's so many flowers that are very similar, and what makes them is just the colour. So you've got your lily drawn. That's the start. I'm going to pick it up for you and show you. That's your lily there. Not a lot of pressure. You can always go heavier later. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off here. I'm going to do this a little bit differently than I have in the past because I think it keeps the middle cleaner if I do these bits first. So I'm popping some of this green, you know I said about the middle being really, really green, and I'm popping that on there. Now this is more green than I want it to be, but that's okay because we can take some of that out. Pop that there, and I'm using some, this one is Meadow LG3. And a little bit on there, just a little bit. Now that, like I say, is really, really green. But what I think I'm going to do is take my blender and blend it out towards the outside, because that, when they say blender, you know that it isn't. What it does is bleach, really. So that I want it bright in the centre, but I wanted it faded out a little bit. So by using the blender around the outside, it's going to make it look a bit more watercolory and more just intense in the centre. So we'll let that do its thing. You'll find that the blender will look a bit grey on the card, but that's just the alcohol, and when it evaporates you won't see it. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to colour these, the things that are loaded with the pollen, and I think I'm going to use maybe a bit of mango. Yeah, I'm going full on colour here, mango, because these, I mean, they really do feature these things, and they're that crazy long shape like that. So we'll get that in, like that. But that's a little bit too bright, so I'm going to go in with some leather and just go around like this. So there's a little bit of mango in there, but more of the leather, because they're kind of like a browny kind of tan colour, but they are pretty intense. I'm going to go back over with the mango just to bring that out a little bit more. So just a little on the bullet nib this time, not the brush nib, just because I want a little bit more control. And then you can also go over. Now I've changed the colours there because I thought I was going to use orange, but I've actually used mango. So just saying, that's you can do that. You might find that when you're playing, you know, you find out you think you've got the right colour, which is why I say absolutely make a colour chart. That was the biggest tip I can give you there, definitely. And now what you're going to find is this green, we need that meadow because they're going to be connected somehow, so you're going to have these little bits just connecting them. It looks all clean and bright and shiny at the minute, and too much so, because it needs to look a little bit, there's got to be shadow in here somewhere, and that's what I'm going to do with my blue-grey one. I'm going to go in here, a little bit darker there, a little bit darker in the middle, and this here, definitely going to be more blue-grey. I'm not going to get too hung up on that and overwork that. I think that probably is enough right now. I need a colour on the top of that, and I need a kind of a nothing too yellowy. I'm going to use, I might use, just try eggshell in this middle bit just to give it a little bit of a colour. We'll see how that dries. It's not as bright as the rest of it. We can go over it now. So that's the middle. So now we can start playing with one of the petals. I think I'm going to work on this petal here. So the predominant colour is going to be cocktail pink. So I'm just going to take cocktail pink and I'm going to start colouring all over the whole petal, but not near the edge. I'm deliberately staying away, because that's the other thing about these stargazer lilies. They've got this really pretty frilly edge to them. Now I'm going to get a hard edge when I do this, but I'm not worried because I am going to use my blender pen to blend it out. And don't make it too even, you know, maybe that bit there, because it's curled over, you're not going to see the ruffly edge. That is all I'm going to do at the set in a minute. So just all over there, cocktail pink. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to blend that out a little bit around the outside, like I said. So this is where I'm going to use the blender pen and again the brush nib. So work around the outside like this. Careful not to hit those little bits you've just coloured in, because if you do, it'll lighten them as well. So just little circular movements like this, and again you're going to see it's going to go a little bit grey, but I'm not worried, because when it dries that'll disappear. But what this will do is it'll give it a little frilly, kind of more of a transition, a softer edge, and make it look a little bit more kind of watercolory. See the way that's starting there? It might not happen immediately, so you know, give it a few seconds. But that now is doing much more what I wanted to do. It's gone all kind of like a bit diffused and like I say, more of a watercolory kind of look. Now I'll do another petal, get it to that stage so that you can see what it looks like, because I want that to dry, I want the alcohol to evaporate off that before I go in with anything anything else. I'm just realising that I think you're going to see a little bit of that green at this petal that's behind, so I'm just going to pop a bit in there, and then we're going to do the same again with the pink. This time that was going right up to that edge of that petal, but not to the edge of its own petal. See? So same thing again, but at the end it's going to go right to the edge, because that's not the end of the petal. The petal continues beyond that. We want to give that impression. It's curved over. See how much harder that line is to that one? Much softer, because we've used the blender. So that's it before and that's it after. So same thing, so the blender again around the outside. You can always, if you don't want to go too far in, you don't have to straight away, you can just keep it towards the edge and then move further in later. I mean, that's the beauty with alcohol pens, you can do this next day if you want and it'll still, you know, lighten it and give it that frilly edge, which I think that's looking pretty cool. Happy with that. Right, the next thing is we want some darker tone in the middle, a bit of shading. Now, vintage pink is going to give the impression of a little bit more of a shaded, kind of a darker value. You know, where behind, you know, underneath these little doodles here, that'll be casting a bit of a shadow and towards the centre of the petal. So if you want, you can give it a little bit of that in the centre. Not do too much, because I don't want to take the vibrancy away from the petal. Just a little bit of movement. You can see we've got that little stuff going on there. Now we're going in with a really bright pink. I'll show you this here. See, this would be more in the shadow because you've got that petal, haven't you, coming over the across it. So this would be darker there. And I'm just following that line I've created. And if you want to use the bullet tip to continue those, you know, where you've got the little ridges in the petals, the lines, you can do that if you don't want to blend it in but still have it a bit darker. I think that looks pretty cool there. Now, it definitely needs some of the lines, the dotty lines. And for that we're going to be really flame red. Woohoo! Now I've done this before and I've used leather and it looked a little bit browny. I quite like the leather. I'm going to try the flame red. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to leather. But if you want to keep it really, really vibrant, so this is what the flame red's going to look like, and it's just accentuating the ridges in that petal there. That's what you're going to get. Now if you want to put the little dots, you know, they have got these little dots on the petals, and make them a little bit random. There's not that much of a pattern. They seem to be more towards the centre of your petal than at the edge. And you can see how that's coming there. Now I might continue doing this whole flower with that, and then we'll see what it looks like, because I may, you know, that's the beauty, we might go over with leather as well and change it, but we'll see what that's like. Always start, if you start with the lighter, it's easier to go darker. So I'm going to do exactly the same, see the same thing I've just done there with this petal. So just accentuating those little the ridges in the petals, the lines. Actually that's a bit darker there as well, because it would accentuate that, the fact that that's curved over. And again, random's better with these, if you can be a bit, like, not too you know, contrived and planning them out too much. And then So I'm going to do that, then we may come back and do a little bit more, well we'll do a bit of shading with the greys, definitely, maybe go back in with that, with the leather. Okay, so now that's it all coloured, that's the bright vibrant. We haven't gone too dark on shadows because we can always go darker. But I'm just wondering, I'm thinking we might go a bit darker here. We might try a little bit of it, because we want to cut a little bit more contour and things, and that's quite dark. That's BGR3. Oh no, yeah, BGR3. So I think that might be a little... I might try BGR1. Let me try, see BGR1. It's going to be that. I think that's what I'm going to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at some of the petals, and that petal, what I've done actually, I should mention as well, is I have erased some of the pencil line a little bit more, so it's hardly visible. And what I'm doing is I'm using this grey to mark in here where, you know, where one petal's going to be overlapping the other. Can you see there where you've got that? And maybe a little bit of this here, not as deep, but just a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of replacing the pencil with the marker now. Now, but I'm probably going to go back in, see how that's a little bit thicker and thinner line there, and it's intensifying it a little bit. And we'll do so thicker there because there's a petal right behind it, so chances are it's going to be casting a bit of a shadow. Now you don't even have to highlight all of the top bits because the light might not be catching it all. So if you just do a little bit like that, you see where you can leave bits out. We're using the line as well as the actual shading on the actual thing to give it more an indication of shadow and things. So this in here, we've got this here, it's going to have a bit of a shadow in there because we've got one petal over the other. So we'll just, and remember those green bits are actually attached to the petals, so I'm going to be a little bit heavier now. You can, this is what I do when I'm drawing, is I'll weight the line, so because the line itself can give an impression of it moving, and again creating a shadow. So you've got a roughly kind of petal there. Now this hopefully will make it pop out a little bit more. And at this point we might decide to go back over, you know, more thinking about the leather instead of the pink. If it goes a little bit too dark at this stage, you know, if the lines pop out, you'll kind of get the idea and think, oh, I don't want to lighten it, I don't want to darken it. We might pop a little bit of cast shadow on this as well. So and by that we'll show you how, if this was sitting against a solid base like a table or whatever, you can put a shadow behind it that would give the impression of it lifting, the leaves, petals moving. We'll have a bit of try of that, we may as well. We've got plenty of time. If you have, I have, it's all good. So very light pressure with the bullet nib. Miss some bits out if you think it's going to be really light. Don't have to. The pencil's enough to fill it in. That may be a bit darker there, darker here. That's going to be a bit in shadow because it actually dips down the petal there. So I'm just doing that there. Right. Okay. So these as well. This needs a little bit darker. Yeah, just to make them pop out a little bit more, make them look a little bit 3D. These little bits that have attached them. But you can always, you see, you don't have to do that first hand, you can do that later. So, it's all good. Don't get too happy with the grey, because I am. I'm thinking, oh, I like the grey and it's giving it all this tone. And so kind of cease and desist eventually, or you'll just, you know, you'll go too far. That isn't looking bad at all. If you could stop it there if you want. Now this is because it's Nina. It's not Nina card. It's Sheena card. You can use a distress inks to create a shadow around the background there, cast shadow. I'm gonna try. You know the leather we were talking about. Will we use the leather or will we not use the leather? So when I find it, because maybe in me, I just put stuff down. It's right in front of me. Right. Shall we give it a go? Shall we just do it? Right, so I'm going to pop that there, just make that a little bit, so I still need those just really strong there. Right, so this is what the leather, we'll show you what the leather would look like. It's going to bring those dots out even more if you dot with these rather than that red. And if I make a mess of mine, well, you know, don't use the leather, just use that scarlet. I quite like it, I like it. I just think it gives it a little bit more depth. And these dots make them different sizes and they don't have to go over the whole petal. That's the beauty of them. They seem to have not much rhyme or reason. A bit like myself. Definitely not reason. Somebody said it was quite relaxing watching people draw. I've never been in that position, to be honest. I'm always the one who's doing it. I'm quite relaxed though. It's nice when you're not, you know, there's no rush. Just take your time, and like I say, you can always build it up. And the beauty of the alcohol pens is that you can come back to it the next day and they'll look at it with fresh eyes. Sometimes, you know, you get too close and it's like, needs something, but you don't know what it does need. So best thing then, I find, is just walk away from it and come back. Right, now it's got a bit more depth, I'm thinking, with that bit of leather in there. You want to be careful that you don't want this to look like polka dots. It needs to be pretty random when you're doing this bit. And vary the size of them. Okay, that isn't looking too bad. One thing I am going to do, I've just picked up a grey, and you know what, might be dead dark. I didn't even check it, so always check it, but I'm going in there with that blue BGR3 here, and I just wanted to add a bit more shadow in the centre, because that's the one place where you're going to have less light in this flower, is the centre. But you know, know when to stop, cease and desist. I'm not going to do too much more there, but we can do a little bit of a cast shadow. So I'll go and find the pen and we'll come back. Right, so that's what we've got. We can have a little bit of a play with it if you want now. So what we can do is put a shadow around it, but we're not going to do a uniform shadow. We're going to hopefully make it look like it's sitting on a table and there's going to be shadow underneath it. So I'm using Ice Grey 2. So I'm going to go around like this. Right, but here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. See, I've come away from the flower, but I've mirrored the bit that's on the top. So now that, if you get it right, would start to look like it's lifted. That's casting a shadow, so it's not quite flat on the base. So we'll do the same with this one. Just a little bit here, a little bit there. But then we'll maybe come away here and do the same kind of thing there, so it doesn't look like it's quite flat. Maybe not do too much fancy here, just keep that. It's got a bit of a, and if you go a little bit thick with this and you want to blend it out, you can always blend it so that the your alcohol, a little bit there, your blender pen can soften the line if it looks a little bit too, you know, too hard and dramatic for you. This one here, I'm just going to get really dramatic with this one, do something like that. As long as you kind of mirror the top there, now that looks like it's really lifted up, that one. And then this one here, just a little bit there, just a little bit of the cast shadow going on. I'm not going to do too much there because we wouldn't say that. So, don't know what that looks like. I'm going to have to look at it myself and hold it up. If you're not sure, you know, look, I'm looking across this here, so I would definitely say stand back a little bit, because sometimes you're too close and you think, oh, I'm not sure if I'm like that, whatever. But that doesn't look too bad to me. I would probably crop that down, ink it up a little bit, make a cool card. If you want to make it really pretty, I would use a little bit of your sparkle overlay on there, you know, your clear spot. Hello, look, there you go. I didn't even plan it, and that just proves where I am, this goes. So if you want to pretty it up, but what we might do is we might do another follow-up video with the eye where I'll make it into some kind of little, finish it off, and maybe with the flower as well. But I don't want to keep them too long because it's quite long now, and that's, yeah, not looking too bad. That's your stargazer lily. Now I would just say have a look at the tiger lilies, swap it out for oranges, and it's the same process if you want to do them as well.